morning, everyone. Let's start off by talking a little bit about what inspiration is, because it's a neat feeling. Inspiration, if you look at the root of the word, it means to be full of spirit. And we've all experienced that. We've all had moments where we're full of spirit. Maybe it was a time where you had an opportunity in front of you. And the neat thing about when you have an opportunity in front of you, most of the time you only see the good. You see only what can happen that's good. And you get excited. And you start putting your plan together and you start going after it. Little do you know, as you go through the walk of life, that sometimes that feeling is flees away. It ebbs and flows, just like every feeling in life. So inspiration comes and goes. So today, I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the blocks that keep us from being inspired, and a couple ways, and a couple few simple questions that we can use to help unleash those blocks. Now for me, I've always found a lot of inspiration in music, in different lyrics. I'm a lover of a lyrical musician. Bands like Dave Matthews, Tom Petty, Paul Simon, you name it. If they have good lyrics, I'm going to be a lover of it. And in college, I remember sitting there in a state of depression, thinking to myself, what the heck am I going to do with my life? And I'm sitting there like most college students listening to Pink Floyd. And I remember the lyrics coming out and grabbing me, and the lyrics were that I had every ability to fly but nowhere to fly to. And that was something that I had held on to, saying, where am I going to fly to? I know I have the ability, where is that going to be? So some places that I find interesting lyrics, Paul Simon, 50 Ways to Leave Your Lover. Great song. So many ways that you can read the song from different angles. So let's start off with the opening lines of the song that says, the problem is all inside your head, she said to me. The answer is easy if you take it logically. I'd like to help you in your struggle to be free. There must be 50 ways to leave your lover. Now I'm going to substitute. When we think of lovers, we think of a person. We think of somebody that we're with. And I'm going to substitute that imagery with what I would call a familiar. There's a book out there called The Fifth Wave Leadership by a gentleman, Maurice Sheffman. And he talks about, within that book, he talks about that we all have familiars. Things that we operate in life in a familiar way. And typically these familiars are things that we picked up through childhood. Because in our strive to be accepted, in our strive to have acceptance from the people around us, we learned in that environment to behave in certain ways to get that acceptance. Even if that acceptance over time creates blocks to our inspiration, and I call them a lover because we're so attached to these issues or to these beliefs, they're very hard to let go because they're deep inside us. And a lot of times we're not even aware of what they are. For instance, a child that's a bully, or even an adult that becomes a bully, the underlying familiar is isolation. Typically, if you go back and look at somebody's life who acts as a bully, you'll find that there is isolation at early stages in their life. And the reason they become a bully is because it creates that isolation. They may, on the surface, hate it, and they may say to you, I don't want to be a bully, but the emotions, that underlying issue is what drives their emotions. Entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurs are familiar for an entrepreneur is to work hard. So what do they often do? Right when things get rolling and things start getting good, they start messing around with it. They start mixing it around, trying something new, starting something new, because it helps them get into that familiar of work, that belief. If I work hard, then I'm successful. So all of us have some kind of familiars. And as Maury would say in his book, if you want to work through those familiars, if you want to get rid of that lover, there's many ways to do it. But one of the primary ways is to become very principle-based in your decisions. And principle-based means that you look at things that are very simple to measure, like honesty and integrity. And if you make your decisions around that, as opposed to acceptance, you'll avoid irrational behavior. The quickest way to have irrational behavior is to try and please all people that are around you. Because it's impossible. Now, there's a lady by the name of Byron Katie, and she has a process of very simple 4-question process that I've used often, and I think is a very powerful way for us to help work through those familiars. Another way for us to let go of that lover that we so desperately want to hold on to. And her process is real simple. She said, and her premise behind it is that we operate in life through a series of judgments. We're constantly making judgments. It's hard to have wise judgment without being judgmental. And so many times in life we're told, oh, you shouldn't be judgmental. Well, the reality is you have to be judgmental. How can you make good and bad decisions without having some kind of judgment? The trick is that judgment causing pain? When you make that judgment, does it cause pain within you? Does it cause disruption in your emotions that bring you down? Does the judgment create inspiration? Because that's a different kind of judgment. Or does the judgment take the inspiration away? And typically, for most of us, our judgments will take that inspiration away. So Byron Katie says, simple, 4 simple steps. First thing is, first question, you ask, is it true? So let's take an example of a husband and wife. Husband and wife are sitting there, and the wife says to her husband, you know, you never listen to me. Doesn't matter what I say, you never listen to me. Well, Byron Katie would sit down with him and say, well, let's start there. Let's look at the phrase, you never listen to me. Is that true? First question, is that true? Well, the normal response from the wife is going to be, oh yeah, absolutely it's true. He never listens. I ask him to take out the trash, and she will have evidence along the way of how it's true. So the second question is, are you sure? Can you prove beyond a reasonable doubt that it's true? And usually when you press a little bit harder, your mind starts to open up a little, and you say, well, okay, maybe never listens to me is a little extreme. And so you start to open up and you say, okay, well, he does listen sometimes, and he did listen here, and he did listen there, and he did do this, and he did do that. And the third question, as that mind is starting to open, is how do you feel when you believe that thought? So how do you feel when you believe your husband never listens to you? It gets the person there and gets yourself to open up, and you say, well, it makes me feel sad, makes me feel invalidated, makes me feel unloved. And then that leads to the fourth question, which is, what could your life be like? What kind of feelings could you have if you didn't have an attachment to that thought? Well, I would feel not so unloved. If I wasn't so attached to the idea that he never listens, I would have openness to realizing that he does listen. And it's like anything in life. Where you look is where you land. So if you're focused on somebody never listening to you, you're going to find evidence to that fact. However, if she were to look at the ways that her husband did listen, she would actually manifest more of that. If she was saying to him, oh, I'm so happy that you heard me say this, or you acknowledge this, it would be a change in behavior that would help the relationship. So Byron Katie says, start with those 4 questions. There's some deeper work that she does called the Word, which is a turnaround, where she teaches you to take some of these phrases and actually turn them around from being negative phrases to positive phrases. But I would tell you to go to the website for it is thework.com. Very powerful, very simple, and if you ever get to see her in person, it's amazing the kind of work that she does in a room. And it's a technique that you can use to get rid of one of these lovers. So in closing, this is what I give to you. The next time that you're sitting and you're feeling uninspired, you're feeling that that some kind of judgment call you're making in your life is dragging you down, think of those 4 questions. And more importantly, think of Paul Simon. As he would say, you just have to slip out the back, Jack. Make a new plan, stand. You don't need to be coy, Roy. Just listen to me. Hop on the bus, Gus. You don't need to discuss much. Just drop off the key, Lee, and set yourself free.